Hey, this is Toby. Today I will show you how to code a Donchian Channel expert advisor in mql5. Let's go. Okay, so in this video we will use our custom indicator, the Donchian Channel. We coded in the last video, and we will use this indicator to create our expert advisor. If you have not watched the first video where we created this custom Donchian Channel indicator, I will link it up here so you can go watch it. And let's jump to meta editor and we start coding. Okay, so here we are in the meta editor. This is our custom indicator we created last time. And as I also said in the previous video, we will use the RSI code and modify it a little bit to create our new Donchian Channel expert advisor. So if you have not watched the RSI EA video, I will link it up here so you can go watch it first and then come back to this video. Okay, so let's just open the RSI EA code here. And let's just save it with a new name. So file, save as, and let's call it Donchian Channel EA. And click on save. Okay, so this is now our expert advisor. And here we have our custom indicator. Okay, so you should be able to compile. And the first thing we want to add to this indicator is another section here after the include. And let's just call it defines. And here we want to define the indicator name. So define indicator name. And now it's important that you use the same name as your custom indicator. So for me, it's my Donchian Channel. And I can just write this here, my Donchian Channel. Because we will use this indicator name later to call the iCustom function. Okay, next we want to edit the inputs here. Let's first of all copy the RSI period and the RSI level and place them down here, because I don't want to delete them now, because then we are not able to compile because we use these inputs in the code down here. So we will delete them in the end of the video. I will just write a comment here. Delete also here for this one. Okay, and now for the inputs, we will have the magic number. Maybe we can write a string, a group to just specify the inputs. So we can just write input group, and let's write something like general for general inputs, and we will also have a section for the Donchian Channel inputs. Okay, so general, the magic number, maybe we change the magic number to another random number. We will also have the lot size input here. Now here for the stop loss, we want a switch, so we can select the stop loss in points, but also the stop loss in percent of the total Donchian Channel range. So we will write a enum here called stop loss take profit mode enum, and enum will have two options. The first one, stop loss take profit mode in percent, and the second one, stop loss take profit mode in points. Okay, let's also write a comment here for these options. Stop loss take profit in percent and take profit, and stop loss take profit in points. And now we can use this enum for our next input. So input this time input, and this time of type stop loss take profit enum, and let's just call it input stop loss take profit mode, and the default value maybe is a stop loss and take profit in percent of the Donchian channel range. We also write a comment here, stop loss take profit mode. And then we have our stop loss input. Let's change the comment here, stop loss in percent or in points, depending of course on this input here. And also take profit can be in percent or in points. And 0 means no take profit and no take stop loss. Okay, we will also have this input close signal input. This just is basically a stop and reverse option for the EA. And now we want to add the inputs for our Donchian channel indicator. So we will use these inputs here from our indicator. Just copy this, paste it here. And here in the line above, I will just add another divider basically, and let's just call it Donchian channel. So the first is the input period here, second one the offset, and then we will have a input for the color of the indicator. So maybe we align this so we just have all the inputs in one line here. This of course is not necessary for the compiler, but it's just easier to read. And I like to keep my code nice and clean. So all the comments aligned. Okay, and later we will delete these two RSI inputs down here. But now we should still be able to compile without any warnings and errors. Okay, so that's for the inputs. Now let's take a look at the global variables here. So again, we will have a handle for our custom indicator. We will have now two buffers. So let's just write a comment here after the buffer. Delete. And I just use these signs here so I can just press Ctrl F later and find the lines where I have to edit a few things or delete in this case. Okay, so we will delete this buffer later, but let's just add our two buffers for the upper values and one buffer for the lower values. Just like this. Okay, and we still use the current tick. We use the trade object, open time buy, open time sell variable. Okay, we should be able to compile. Perfect. Okay, so let's take a look at the on-init here, where we check the user inputs. So we still need to check the magic number, lot size. Now, of course, we don't need to check the period and the level of the RSI. So we can just cut this and paste it here after stop loss and take profit. So we still check the stop loss. We check the take profit. And maybe we want to add here another check. So we just make sure that if we have no stop loss and no stop and reverse exit, then we also want to print out a message and don't want to start the EA. So let's just check with a input stop loss equals 0 and our input close signal is false, just like this. Then we can write a message, no stop loss and no close signal. Okay, and here where we have now the RSI period, we can change this just to input period. Donchian channel period less or equals 1. And also we have to check the offset input here. So the offset can be 0 and all the way up to 49, I would say. Because 50, then we would have the upper and the lower band at the same value. So we don't want that. So maybe we write a quick note here. So this can be from 0 all the way to 49%, just like this. And now let's check this here. Input offset, if this is less than 0, or the input offset is greater or equal to 50. Let's write a message here. Donchian Channel set below 0 or greater or equal to 50. Okay, I think that's it for the user inputs check. Now let's take a look. Here we still set the magic number, of course. And now here where we create the handle, now of course we don't use the RSI function here, but we use the iCustom function. So iCustom, we specify the symbol, the period, and here now we need to give our inputs that our Donchian Channel EA has. So the period, the offset, and the color. And we will use the inputs here from the EA. So input period, input offset, and input color. Okay, like this. And we again check if the handle is invalid. We want to print out a message. And we set the buffer here as series. So now, of course, we need to change this to buffer upper. And we now have a second buffer, the buffer lower. Okay. And so the indicator gets displayed on a chart automatically, and we don't have to add the indicator manually when the EA is dragged and dropped on a chart. We can add another line here. So we can just write a comment, draw indicator on chart, and there's a function in mql5 called chart indicator add. And here we can just specify the chart ID, which is null for the current chart. The sub window, also 0 for the main window, and the indicator handle. This is our handle here. And this will just also display the indicator when we drag and drop the EA on any chart. So that's pretty handy. And that's it for the onInit function. Let's compile. We can see we have one warning here. Let's take a look. Number to string. So we have to specify here also, of course, the name of the indicator in the iCustom function. So here after the period current, you can see here string indicator name. And we have already defined our indicator name with this define statement here. So we can just use the indicator name now and use it here for the string parameter, just like this. Okay, let's compile again. And now we can see we have no warnings and no errors. Perfect. Okay, now let's take a look at the onInit function here of this expert advisor. So here we already released the indicator handle, but now what we also want to add here is we need to delete the indicator from the chart, because here we need the chart we use the chart indicator add function. And now here in this if body, we also want to delete the indicator again from the chart. So chart indicator delete, the chart ID null, sub window 0, And now the short name of the indicator. So the short name of the indicator, we specified the short name here in the Donchian Channel indicator in the on init section. So we can just copy this here, Donchian, and then in brackets the period, and paste this here. So this has to be the same short name, so we can delete the indicator from the chart. Okay, let's just add this bracket here, semicolon, and this is all we need to add here in the onDinit function. Let's compile. Perfect. So now, before we take a look here at the onTick function, first of all, I want to add one more custom function here in the under the custom function section. And I will just copy this from the Bollinger Band code, but you can just pause the video and code it for yourself. So this will be the isNewBarCheck function. So let me just paste this here before the count open position function. So this just checks if we have a new bar, if the current tick is a open tick of a new bar. So we have a static variable here, previous time set to 0 at the start, and then we just get the current time of the bar, and then we check if the previous time is not equal to the current time. We set the current time to the previous time and return true, and otherwise we return false. So that's all for the isNewBar function here under the custom function section, and all the other custom functions are the same from the RSI video. Like we will use the count open position function, the normalized price function, and the close positions function. Okay, now we can take a look at the onTick function. First of all, let's compile. Let's go to the onTick function here. Okay, so now here in the onTick function, before we get the current tick, we want to check if the current tick is a bar open tick. So now we can use our function isNewBar. So let's just write a comment, maybe here. Check if current tick is a new bar open tick. And we just write an if statement, isNewBar. If this function here returns false, then we also want to return and just wait for the next tick, unless this tick is a bar open tick and this function returns true. Okay, next we also get the current tick of the symbol and store it in our global variable current tick. And here we get the indicator values. This is for the RSI. So let's change this to get Donchian Channel values. And now we have two buffers, of course. So we will just copy this and add this to the other buffer. So the buffer, the copy buffer function returns the number of values copied to this buffer array here. And because we have two buffers, so the first one here is buffer upper, and the second one is buffer lower. Let's add a semicolon back here. And so we will get one value for the buffer upper and one value for the buffer lower. So let's change here. Buffer upper is index 0, but we only need one value. And the buffer lower is index 1, and also we need only one value. Okay, so 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1. Buffer upper, buffer lower, and this return value plus this return value should be 2. So if our values variable here is not equal to 2, then we want to print a error message. Failed to get indicator values, and we return. Okay, let's compile. So now we have our indicator values from our custom indicator. And yeah, let's just use this comment section here to check if the indicator values are correct. So we can write buffer upper here, index 0, buffer upper, and buffer lower, also index 0, because we only need one value for each buffer. Buffer lower, also index 0. Okay, if we compile now, we can go to the meta editor platform and let's see if we can check if we get the correct values. So we go to the tester, Donchian Channel EA. We select a symbol and we will use the visual mode here. And let's just press start. And let's see if we get the correct values. Of course, the values are different for you, but you can just check if the values you see here in the top left corner of the chart are the same you see here in the data window. So if you select the crosshair, middle mouse button, and hover over the latest bar here, you can compare the values. So the upper is 1.043540 in the data window. 4050. Yeah, it's the same. And the lower value 1.0354. Yeah, it's the same. So we get the correct value in our EA from our custom indicator here. Okay, so let's close this again and go back to meta editor. And now we can also comment out here this comment statement. So the EA is more efficient. And let's compile again. Okay, so now here the next part is where we count the open positions. This will stay the same. And now here we need to change the conditions when we want to open a buy position and a sell position. So let's start here with the buy position. So of course we don't need this buffer RSI and also the second condition here. We can just delete this. And let's add a new condition. So if we take a look at the chart, as I said in the previous video, we want to open a buy position when price is below the lower band. So for example here. So this bar open price here would trigger a buy position. So let's take a look here at the code. So if our current tick dot ask price, because the ask price is relevant for a buy position, is below or equal, below or equal to our buffer lower index 0. In this case, we want to open a buy position, and of course, if we don't have a buy position already open. We can change the same. We can make the same change here for the sell condition. So for the sell, the current tick dot bid price has to be greater or equal to our buffer upper index 0. Okay, and now what we need to do is to change the stop loss and take profit calculation here. So let's start here for the buy position. We can just write a if statement here, because now we need to check if we want to calculate the stop loss in points or in percent. So we have our input stop loss take profit mode. If that is equal to stop loss take profit in percent, then we want to calculate the stop loss take profit in percent, and else we calculate stop loss take profit in points. So we already have it here in points, so we can just put this inside this else body here. This is the calculation in points. And now, of course, we need to declare these variables outside of this if statement. So right here, double stop loss equals 0, and also double take profit equals 0. And here, if we want to calculate the stop loss in percent, Yeah, let's delete this. And let's just copy this, paste it here. So if it's in percent, we want to calculate the stop loss with the current tick bid price, but we need to subtract, of course, the Donchian channel range multiplied by our input. So let's just use the buffer upper value, subtract the buffer lower value, and we multiply this distance by our input stop loss. And we also multiply this by 0.01 because it's an integer in percent. And we do the same here for the take profit. So we get the total range of the current Donchian channel, and then we multiply it by our input take profit value and multiply it by 0.01. And yeah, of course, the take profit we add to the current price and we subtract for the stop loss. So that should be fine for the buy position. And now let's just copy this and paste this for the sell position. So we can just replace these two lines here. And now, of course, we need to change this to ask price. And we also need to change here this minus to plus, and we want to subtract the take profit. And again here, just like this. Okay, this should be it for stop loss take profit calculation. We then normalize the price for stop loss take profit, and then we open a position. Now here, of course, we can change this trade code here. So just Donchian Channel EA, and we can do the same down here for the sell position, just like this. Okay, let's compile. We can see we have a lot of errors, but you should always just focus on the top error and fix the top error first. So let's double click here, and we can see stop loss take profit undeclared identifier. So of course we need to also copy these two variables here and paste them here before this if statement. Now let's compile again, and you can see we have no errors and no warnings. Okay, so now before we can do the first backtest, we go through the code because we need to delete a few things. So we can just use the Control F. We can look for the plus signs. So here we can now delete the RSI inputs, these two lines. And the next one, we can also delete this buffer here. That's it. But let's just scroll through the code. If we find anything else we want to change, so that's fine. Yeah, here the comment, create indicator handle. Okay, so I'm just editing the video and I found a little mistake here. So before we write chart indicator add, we want to add another line of code, chart indicator delete, null for the current chart ID, 0 for the main chart window, and our indicator short name. So this will just make sure if we switch inputs, we don't get two indicators on the chart. Okay, let's also compile. That's it, perfect. And I think the rest of the code is fine. I will go all the way down so you can see everything. So this is the last function here. Okay, let's compile. And now we can switch to meta editor and we can start a first visual test. So let's open the strategy tester, select a symbol, check the visual mode here, and let's take a look here at the inputs. So of course, we have the magic number, lot size. We will use the stop loss take profit in percent for the first test here. And let's just say we want 100% stop loss, 100% take profit. We don't want to close the signal, the trades on an opposite signal. Period 20 is fine, and offset, let's just leave it at 0. And let's take a look at the first visual test to see if our EA is working like intended. And also I have selected the open price only mode because we only react on open prices anyways, so there's no point testing it with every tick. And I have the period H1. Let's take a look if our EA takes trades. Yeah, we can see this was the first open price above the upper band. And here we opened a sell position with a 100% stop loss. So this is exactly the same distance as the current Donchian Channel distance here, and also the take profit. And yeah, this trade got closed by take profit. We have another short trade here. This time it got closed by stop loss. We opened another one, take profit. We opened a buy position right here. So again, the calculation for stop loss and take profit looks correct. And again, we close in take profit. So we can see the EA is working like intended. Let's test maybe the stop loss in points. So let's just change this to 200 points. And yeah, let's do this first. And this step is very important, that your EA works exactly like you think it should work, because a lot of times you code something and the EA is doing something completely different than you expected. So now let's just wait for a trade and let's check stop loss and take profit, 200 points. Yes, and also for the buy trade. Yeah. Okay, so stop loss take profit calculation works perfectly. Let's set this to 0 and let's use the reversed stop and reversed exit signal here. So we have a short trade and we should close this trade whenever we have a buy trade. And then again, so we are always in the market. Let's take a closer look here. Why did we not? So we are in a sell trade, so we wait for buy. Yeah. I also want to test the offset really quick. So let's increase the period to 50 and let's do a offset of 20. So now we will have a very small channel here. And you can see the open prices here, the highs are way higher than the actual channel. So the offset is working fine for the upper band and also for the lower band. So if I use these inputs here, you can pause if you want to look at the inputs. And if I use these settings here, I get a result over 10 years that looks like this one here. I think that's already pretty good, but I think we can even improve this equity by adding a size filter or a channel size filter, like I mentioned in the beginning of the previous video. Because I think the enemy of our strategy here are strong trending markets. And if we only take trades when the Donchian channel has a specific size, then we just make sure that a strong move occurred in the recent past. And now we just assume that market is just going sideways. This is, of course, the market condition we want for our strategy. So let's just add this size filter to our EA. So here we are in the meta editor again. Let's just add this size filter to our inputs here. Maybe here. So we just write inputs, integer, input size filter. And the default value will be 0. And let's also write a comment here. Size filter in points. And also 0 means off. Okay, let's copy this and let's go down to the check user inputs section here. Yeah, let's just copy this one if statement here. And we will check for the size filter input. Size filter should not be below 0. If that's the case, we want to print a error message here. Just like this. Okay, let's compile again. And now we can go down to the onTick function already. Okay, so we only want to take positions or check for the conditions when the Donchian channel range is big enough. So maybe we just add the size filter here. And we can write a comment, check size filter. And we can write a simple if statement here. If input size filter is greater than 0 and our current Donchian channel range, so buffer upper index 0 minus buffer lower index 0 is less than our input size filter multiplied by points. In this case, we just want to return and we don't want to check for new buy positions or sell positions. So we just return and wait for the next tick. So this is all we need to code for the size filter. And let's compile again and let's do another backtest and see if this improves the results. Okay, so let's just run a quick optimization here with the new size filter in points. Also for the last 10 years here. And we will use the fast generic based algorithm. So this will be pretty fast because we also only react on open prices. So this should take just a few seconds. We can already see the first results and we see this result here is the recovery factor. So this is just the ratio between drawdown and final profit. So a result around 5 is already pretty good, but let's just wait and let's take a look at the best combination here. Of course, if you want to trade a strategy live, you should not just run a optimization like this one here and pick the best parameter. But for this video, we will take a look at the equity curve for the best parameter. You should always take a look also at the stability of a parameter and out of sample tests and all that stuff. Okay, so now the optimization is finished. Let's take a look here at this run. And we can see the equity looks quite nice. I think in the beginning I had another one. So we get the same equity as I showed you in the beginning. So for the inputs, 200 stop loss in percent, 175% take profit. We use the stop and reverse. We use the filter of 325 points and period of 100 and offset of 40%. So let's just run this test here. Yeah, this is the result we get. And now what I also want to do, this is already a pretty good result over 10 years. So what I also want to do is to test the same strategy with out of sample data. So I have data starting in 2008. So if I just go back 4 years, we can see how the strategy would perform with new data. So from 2008 to 2012, we will have out of sample data. So let's run this test again. Let's take a look. Okay, so pretty surprising results, I would say. Pretty amazing, because the strategy also performed here before we started the optimization. So we optimized this part here, the second half, and the first few years are basically out of sample. So you can see the strategy is performing since 2008 up until today. So I think this is a pretty amazing result with a simple Donchian Channel expert advisor. So now, of course, it's up to you to test different markets, test different periods, and yeah, maybe you can reverse the signal to trade a breakout and also reverse the filter. But I think this result here is a pretty good base to develop a profitable strategy for the live market. And if this video was helpful for you, it would be nice if you just leave a like. In the future, I will make more content about strategy development in general. So not just about mql5 coding, but also about backtesting, out of sample testing, and all that stuff. If you don't want to miss that, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And also I have to make a quick announcement here. So my Master EA is now available here on the mql5 market. And also I'm now a partner for Darwin-X. So if you are looking for a good broker, a serious broker, and you want to take your automated trading to the next level, I will drop a link in the description. It's an affiliate link, so you don't have to pay more commissions or anything, but I just get a commission from Darwin-X, and this will compensate at least a little bit the time and effort I put in these free YouTube videos. Okay, so I wish you the best for your trading, and I will see you in one of the next videos. Bye.